Good evening and welcome back to the Warbird Mistress. I know I haven't done a recording in quite some time, and obviously that's something I need to rectify. And this series, I think, is going to be a really enjoyable way to get into the habit of regular productions. Welcome to A Walk Through the War. Now, unlike the This Day in Warbird History series, which, was really just to get off the ground and jumped from country to country and year to year, this is going to be a day by day episodic walk through the war. That's why it's called that. Through the eyes of the United States Army Air Forces. Now, these are taken from the diaries of the Army Air Forces. There's a published activity list, I guess you could call it, of every day of the war that I happen to have. And I think that that would be a good way that if I miss a few days, I could always play catch up. But in general, I want to always put it out in the morning of the day that I'm covering. And so we begin on the 8th of December, 1941. Now, although the diaries do begin on the 6th, I think we all kind of realize what happened on Sunday, December 7th. And so today we begin after that, a fateful day, that that will live in infamy, to be trite. And we start off with looking at the American theater of operations. And ironically, we start with the rebirth of what was a bomber on its way out. The B-18s in Alaska, under Alaska Defense Command, were ordered to fly armored reconnaissance each morning from Elmendorf Field Anchorage to Kodiak Island. The B-18 Bolo, of course, was mainstay in the late 30s, but it was being replaced by the B-17. So it's interesting that its career as an anti-submarine warfare aircraft and anti-shipping aircraft kind of started off really on the first full day of the war for the United States. Meanwhile, on the Caribbean front, Army Air Force units were ordered to begin flying anti-submarine warfare patrols. Now, they, of course, had been flying patrols prior to then for against U-boats that might have been encroaching, and, of course, just to keep track of American possessions. But now that the country was at war, there was a distinct need to fly these missions in concentrations around the Caribbean where oil shipping was of particular importance. In the continent herself, the 1st and 4th Air Forces were made responsible for air defense on the east and west coasts, respectively. Both Air Forces ordered overwater reconnaissance. Units were ordered to employ all available aircraft to locate and attack any hostile surface forces that might be approaching either coast. And these units were mostly B-17s, B-18s, B-25s, some P-40 units. There were also A-29s, and, of course, lighter observation aircraft. So it shows that there really weren't a surplus of available units to go and fly these patrols. And many of these, in the early 3 months of 1942, would find themselves being restationed as bomber and attack units overseas. And our final view of today is in the Southwest Pacific. The Far East Air Force had received notice of the bombing of Pearl Harbor via commercial radio at about 0300 to 0330 hours local time. And within 30 minutes, aircraft formations north of the islands were headed for Corregidor. So the radar warning in the Pacific did work. And they sent out flights of P-40s, but there was no contact made. Shortly before 0930, Japanese aircraft are detected over Lingayen Gulf, and they're headed towards Manila. So the B-17s at Clark Field were ordered airborne to prevent them from being caught on the ground. Fighters were also sent up to intercept, but again, no contact was made. The Japanese, who had used a western approach, then swung east to bomb the military installations at Bagoyo, Tarlac, Tongagaro, and the airfields at Cabantuan, forgive my pronunciation there. And by 11:30 hours, the B-17s and fighters had to return to Clark Field and Iba Field. And the radar was still showing more incoming flights of Japanese aircraft off of Lingayen Gulf. Fighters were sent to search over the South China Sea. Others from Nichols Field were dispatched to patrol over Bataan and Manila, and there was really nothing that was spotted. So they were flying fighter cover, and yet still there was nothing that they could do. The B-17s in Clark Field, along with the fighter escorts that had returned, were all caught on the ground at around noon. Of the P-40s that had managed to get airborne, one downed a Japanese aircraft. That was Second Lieutenant Randall B. Keeter of the 20th Pursuit Squadron. What the P-40s did manage to do, though, was to prevent low-level strafing. That prevented the aircraft at Del Carmen Field from being destroyed, as they had been at Clark Field. And at the end of the day, it was very clear that war had come to the Philippines. And that ends today's brief overview of A Walk Through the War for 8th of December, 1941. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, join the group, and like the page on Facebook. And of course, Patreon subscriptions are available at $3 and up. Products available at the store, so check out the merch. I do have new mugs that I really like very much. Better finish, better quality imaging. And I will see you tomorrow. This is Claire, and I am the Warbird Mistress. Take care.